Hello, and welcome to Halftime on the Hudson. I'm John Rohr, alongside Eddie Whitman. Let's start with hot takes. It's time for the Browns to put the bye in bye week. That had a promising start.
All right.
Hello, and welcome to Halftime on the Hudson. I'm John Rohr, alongside Eddie Whitman. Let's start with hot takes. It's time for the Cleveland Browns to put the bye in bye week. Following the Browns' 26-23 overtime loss to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Sunday, head coach Hugh Jackson stated that he would become more involved in the offensive play calling for the remainder of the season. The last thing any Browns fan wants to hear is for Hugh Jackson to become more involved in anything. Heck, I wouldn't trust Hugh Jackson to properly assemble a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, let alone run an NFL offense. Hugh Jackson happens to be the same guy who promised to jump into Lake Erie when the Browns went 0-16 last season, but waited until June before taking his leisurely stroll into the shallow depths of the Lake Erie shoreline. This could very well be Hugh's final hurrah in Northern Ohio, but after going 1-31 in his first 2 years in Cleveland, the front office clearly still has plenty of faith. So it could very well be the Browns head coach until Baker Mayfield retires in 2033.
The NBA is better when Los Angeles, New York, and Boston are all good. When is the last time the Lakers, the Celtics, and the Knicks were all relevant? It's been quite a while. There's only one man who could solve this issue, and that is Kevin Durant. KD will be signing with the Knicks this offseason, and here's why. KD's taken a lot of heat and hatred from the NBA world when he decided to sign with the Golden State Warriors, because he didn't earn those championships, right? The Warriors are destined to win their third straight championship after signing KD a few summers ago. There's only one way for KD to flip the narrative, and that's to join the New York Knicks and bring New York a championship. With a core of Kevin Durant, Kristaps Porzingis, and the ability to afford another max player, this can make the Knicks a real championship contender. NBA players have made it known that David Fizdale is a great coach and they would love to play for him. Kevin Durant's business partner works out of New York, and guess what? He's a Knicks fan. Kevin Durant's dad, also a Knicks fan. A young and talented core, Madison Square Garden, and the appeal of accomplishing a challenge nobody wanted to attempt are all reasons why Kevin Durant is a perfect match for New York City. If KD can deliver a championship to the Knicks, he'll go down as one of the best players to ever play the game of basketball. Watch out, because next season you'll see Kevin Durant run out of the tunnel wearing the blue and orange.
The NBA season tipped off last week, and thus far the most notable storyline has been Rajon Rondo spitting on Chris Paul. And perhaps the biggest surprise is the fact that Rajon Rondo's saliva is indeed more accurate than his jump shot. With Rondo suspended for 3 games, it's time for the second coming of the great Lonzo Ball. I'm sad to say, though, I haven't really watched much of the NBA so far this season, and there's not really much to look forward to other than the off chance somebody pulls a Khabib and starts slapping everybody within reach. The 2019 NBA Finals will consist of the Golden State Warriors and some team from the East not named the Cavs. My point is, the lack of parity has ruined the NBA. Who wants to see a movie when they know how it ends?
Passing on Sam Darnold, the move the Giants will regret for the next 10 to 15 years. Saquon Barkley is an amazing talent and is probably already a top 3 running back in the NFL. But in the NFL, you win with quarterbacks. Eli Manning is washed up. His career is done and finished. Eli's been great for the Giants, but it's time for the G-men to move on. The Jets have their franchise quarterback, which gives them a massive lead over the Giants for years to come. Right now, the Jets are 3-4, and they don't have any elite offensive players. They don't have a guy even close to the talent of Odell Beckham Jr. There's optimism surrounding the Jets solely because of the rookie quarterback, Sam Darnold. By drafting Barkley, the Giants went with the popular choice, not the right choice. 2 weeks ago, Saquon Barkley had almost 250 yards of total offense. The Giants lost that game and only scored 13 points. Quarterbacks win football games, not skill position players. Has Sam Darnold been great this season so far? No. But it's obvious the talent is there. Oh, by the way, the Jets have $90 million to spend in free agency this offseason. Yes, the Giants have Odell and Saquon, but the Jets are going to own New York City for years to come. When we return, John and I will give you our thoughts on the latest news across the sports world. Stay tuned.
No. Okay, yeah, you take that one, and then I'll just, I'll read the subject.
My bad. John and I are now going to discuss several notable headlines that we've seen in the sports world in the past week. Let's get right into it.
Yeah, Eddie, as you mentioned, quite a bit going on. We'll start with the Rams, 7-0 for the first time since 1985.
I mean, it's pretty impressive. I mean, they haven't played – a few of their games have been against weak talent, but it's clear the talent's there on offense and defense. I mean, Todd Gurley's probably been one of the best players in football, and it looks like Aaron Donald's back. He had 4 sacks last week, so it's going to be tough for any team to beat them just because there's so much talent on this team, pretty much every position.
Yep. I think 7-0, while it's nice to have the playoff spot pretty much locked up, I think that division's horrible, so we can't really take a whole lot from it. Again, it'll all come down to the playoffs. And last year, they were kind of favored going into the playoffs.
Definitely,
didn't really do a whole lot.
It's interesting to see how they do in big games with a young team. It should be interesting to see how they perform.
Another NFL team, defending Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles, blew a 17-0 lead in the fourth quarter at home.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy because the defense looked so dominant in the first 3 quarters, and Cam Newton really couldn't do anything. And then something changed in the fourth quarter. I'm not really sure what it was, but there was a few drives that Cam Newton just led them right down the field, and even the last drive ending with a touchdown to Greg Olsen. I mean, the Eagles' defense didn't put up any really fight in the fourth quarter, which is weird because a team that was in desperate need of the win, they were 3-3, and the defending champs are fighting for a playoff spot right now, and now they go back to 3-4, puts them in a pretty tough spot. So blowing a 17-0 lead is definitely not good for the morale of the team in any way.
Yep, it definitely, once again, though, it illustrates this division is going to be tough yet again.
Oh, it is.
I don't have a clear winner yet, and it also kind of shows how difficult it is to repeat as Super Bowl champs.
Oh, exactly. And I honestly don't even feel like the Giants are out of it yet. I mean, they have made some trades, but based on the records, they're really not even out of it yet. They're only a few games back, so it'll be interesting. It's going to be like a slugfest in the division. Really, only one team's getting in the playoffs. No one's getting a wild card just because of the record so far. So it'll be interesting to see if the Eagles can get hot and make it back to the playoffs.
Changing gears a little bit over to baseball, the Astros were accused of sign stealing during Game 1 of the ALCS against the Red Sox. They were also accused during Game 3 of the ALDS against the Indians and back in August during a series against the Oakland A's.
Yeah, it's definitely pretty suspicious. I mean, to be caught 3 times, and I really don't think the MLB's talked about that much. I mean, maybe they'll talk about more in the offseason, but it really wasn't talked about that much. I mean, clearly the better team still won. The Red Sox were dominant in that series, but the fact that there was cheating going on, it stinks to see that kind of stuff just because of baseball. It's a big-time sport in this country and in the past, so it's tough to see guys try to take shortcuts and try to cheat to win games, especially in the playoffs. It's kind of sad to see.
Yep, Major League Baseball has gone ahead and said they're pretty much done with this matter and it won't really be discussed further. I can tell you, though, this is not the first time this season the Astros have been accused of cheating. If you remember back in the summer, Indians pitcher Trevor Bauer accused some of their pitchers of tampering with the baseballs, adjusting spin rate, and stuff like that.
Yeah, so definitely a constant, keeps happening, especially with the Astros. I feel like they're going to be on high notice going into next season, so I'm sure it won't be happening again, and if it does, they're definitely going to be caught.
Changing gears once again, over to boxing. Not the most popular sport nowadays, but boxer Canelo Alvarez signed the richest sports deal in history at $365 million.
I mean, you have to talk about it. I mean, $365 million is a lot of money, and I feel like whether it was in any sport, people are going to talk about it. I mean, I'm not a big boxing fan personally, but seeing $365 million for a sports deal is definitely notable. So it's pretty crazy to see how much money is going into these sports now.
That's a whole lot of Corona.
It is.
Usain Bolt, world's fastest man, now a professional soccer player in Australia.
I mean, I didn't see this until recently, but it's really interesting to see this. I don't know if he's a good soccer player or not. I assume he's not the best, but obviously his speed and I'm sure the jersey sales will be very high for Usain Bolt. But it's interesting to see him as a pro soccer player. I mean, everyone knows him as the probably best track athlete ever. So it's interesting to see him try to change gears and try to become a soccer player. It's kind of weird to see.
Yep, when the coach was asked about Bolt signing that contract, he said it was news to him.
Oh, wow.
Many have said Bolt's not very good at soccer. All right, back to college football. Ohio State, big-time upset in primetime on Saturday, 49-20 loss against Purdue.
I mean, I was shocked. I mean, I'm not as shocked that they lost. I'm more shocked that they lost by 30. I know in the past, Ohio State's had trouble with Purdue. I remember I was watching College Game Day in the morning, and they were saying that Purdue's always given them a tough time, but they all picked Ohio State to win, even after pointing out all those things. So I'm not surprised Purdue won. They're known to play well against Ohio State, but to see them lose by 30 is interesting because Ohio State seems so dominant this season, and now they're dropping from number 2 to number 11 in the country, and after a 30-point loss, I mean, it's just a total flip of what they've been all season.
Yep. I still don't think this totally buries their playoff chances. I still think a one-loss Big Ten champion will probably get in, seeing that being Ohio State or Michigan. What it does do, it means the Big Ten can't have two teams in the playoffs this year.
Oh, absolutely.
That Ohio State-Michigan game is now super duper meaningful.
And as you said, I don't think they're out of it yet. If they win out, there's definitely a very realistic shot they get in, but they'll have to get something figured out because a 30-point loss to anyone is definitely not a good thing.
All right, wrapping things up, L.A. Braun and the Lakers are now 0-3.
I mean, I'm not surprised. First off, they played three pretty good teams. They've played three playoff teams, but besides LeBron, it really is a question mark with the rest of his team. I mean, yes, they have Brandon Ingram, Kyle Kuzma, Lonzo Ball, but all those guys are young players, and I'm still at the notion of I still think LeBron should have stayed in Cleveland. I feel like the Cavs had a better team than the Lakers have. There's not even a player close to the player of Kevin Love. But going back to the point, I think the Lakers will be fine. They're going to make the playoffs. So LeBron's not going to miss the playoffs. He's the best player in the game now, I think, of all time. So I don't see the Lakers missing the playoffs. I think people are getting a little overreacting too soon.
Yep. This is the worst start to LeBron's season since his early days in Cleveland, 03 or 04. So, yeah, we'll see how that pans out. I don't see the Lakers getting more than 50 wins this year, though. I
agree with that. I mean, there's so many good teams in the West, and it's really just LeBron and a lot of question marks, a lot of young guys, so I really don't think you can count on anyone besides LeBron to give you consistent games throughout the season.
When we come back, Dillon Dunwoody will give us his NHL power rankings from the season this far.
With the first few weeks of the NHL season coming on, I think now would be a good time to look back and see what teams are performing in the power rankings. Here are the top 5. At number 5 on the list are the Winnipeg Jets. While the team did have an easier schedule to the past week or so, playing teams such as Vancouver and Arizona, they have put together a few wins following their slow start. A win against the Blues and losing in overtime to the Edmonton Oilers has the team sitting pretty at a record of 6-2-1. Surprisingly, Winnipeg has gotten a lot of production out of their blue line, with young defenseman Josh Morrissey putting up 7 points in 9 games and Dustin Byfuglien putting up 5 points in 7 games. Their upcoming schedule has them play the dominant Toronto Maple Leafs twice, and this will be a great way to measure how these Jets can handle a tough team. At number 4, we have Winnipeg's opponent this week in the Toronto Maple Leafs. The Leafs have been dropping lately, whereas last week I would have had them at number 1 in the power rankings. Tough losses against Pittsburgh and St. Louis have pushed them much farther down the power rankings, not to mention that they only had 1 goal combined in those 2 games. The Leafs' power play, which seemed to be near perfect at a 50% to start the season, has begun to show its weakness, going 0 for 4 against St. Louis and 0 for 1 against Pittsburgh. If the team continues to struggle and loses to Winnipeg in their 2 games this week, they could begin to really show how much they need William Nylander to sign a contract and get playing. For number 3 on the list, I have the Tampa Bay Lightning. After Toronto came out of the gate winning almost every game in convincing fashion, this has left the other blue and white team in the Atlantic in the shadow. The Lightning have found themselves once again in the same scenario that they had last year, cup or bust. With the amount of raw talent on the team, they should be on the top of the power rankings, so what's the problem? When you think of the Lightning game, you think of Steven Stamkos letting up the score sheet whenever he can. But surprisingly, Yanni Gourde is the team's current point leader, having 8 points through 7 games. Stamkos has been held to a pedestrian 3 points with 1 goal and 2 assists on the season. Once he picks up his usual pace, the Lightning could climb to the top of the power rankings. At number 2 on the list, I have the Colorado Avalanche. This team is one of the most exciting to watch in hockey. The top line of Mikko Rantanen, Nathan MacKinnon, and Gabe Landeskog have been absolutely on fire since the season started. Last season, it was the Nathan MacKinnon show, but Landeskog and Rantanen have shown their prowess as well. Landeskog himself recorded a hat trick just recently against a tough New Jersey Devils team, showing that the captain still has it in him to show up on the score sheet. The only concern for the team is depth. With the top line carrying the team so much, if they begin to falter, it could be a rough time for the Avalanche in the future. And topping the list at number 1 are the Nashville Predators. Since their 3-0 loss early in the season to the Calgary Flames, the Predators have done nothing but win. Despite their starting goaltender, Pekka Rinne, going down with an injury earlier in the week, UC Saros has done a fantastic job filling in, grabbing 4 more wins for the dominant team. On the contrary to their Central Division foes in the Avalanche, the Predators have found scoring throughout their lineup. The defense headed by PK Subban and Ryan Ellis is as deadly as it has been for the past few years. If the Predators continue the pace that they're playing at, and they continue to receive excellent goaltending, they could be an easy favorite to make a cup run this year. That's my NHL Power Rankings. Back to you guys at the desk.
Thanks, Dylan. Now on to our games of the week. The Fall Classic is back. The Dodgers and the Red Sox will be battling it out for the rights to call themselves the best team in the world. This series is everything baseball fans could ask for. a mix of young players and veterans, star-studded pitching, powerful offenses, and a ton of superstars. With players like Chris Sale, Clayton Kershaw, Mookie Betts, J.D. Martinez, Justin Turner, and Manny Machado, every single at-bat is a great one to watch. This series has all the potential to be a fantastic series and could go 6 or 7 games. As a Yankee fan, it hurts me to say this, but I think the Red Sox are a better team and will take home the trophy.
My game of the week this week is El Clasico, Barcelona versus Real Madrid, a geopolitical matchup of Spanish superclubs. This Sunday's matchup will, for the first time in 11 years, not feature Lionel Messi or Cristiano Ronaldo. With CR7 departing Madrid this past summer for Juventus and Messi out with a fractured arm, the match will have quite a different feel. Madrid are also fresh off their worst scoring drought in club history, having previously not scored for 465 minutes. A loss for Los Blancos will almost certainly mean the end of Julian Lopetegui's time in charge of Real Madrid. Barcelona, on the other hand, have had a strong start to the season and are currently sitting atop La Liga standings, so 3 points against their rivals would help solidify their title aspirations. That's all we have this week. He's Eddie Whitman. I'm John Rohr. We'll see you next time.